Season 1 of Medsplaining is brought to you by Estee Lauder. With 40 years of night repair expertise and 30 years of collagen research, Estee Lauder are the expert in nighttime skincare. Welcome to today's mini episode. In this episode, I'm going to talk about what it's like to get a colonoscopy. But first, let's talk about skincare. Achieve ultimate nighttime renewal with Estee Lauder's Advanced Night Repair Serum and new Revitalizing Supreme Night Power Bounce Cream. The serum fights key signs of aging, while the cream boosts collagen and improves elasticity. Wake up to revitalized, youthful skin. Welcome to Medsplaining. This week we have a mini episode for you. These are shorter episodes that will air every other week where we either tackle a listener question, do a quick Q&A with a special guest, or talk about something that's maybe a shorter topic than we would cover in a full episode. This week, I'm so lucky to have my daughter, Becky, here to help read a listener question. So Becky, welcome to Medsplaining.
Thank you.
So Becky, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then tell everyone what you're going to be doing this fall.
Okay, well, I'm 18. I just graduated high school, and I'm preparing to move to the States because I'm going to NYU. And
what are you studying there?
I'm doing a double major of journalism and English.
I know that you're going to be a big success. We're going to miss having you around every day, but we're also really excited about having an excuse to come to New York and visit. So who knows? Maybe we'll do some episodes from
I was going to say,
New
Medsplaining takes New York.
Medsplaining can take on New York. I think we're ready to tackle it. So thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So maybe you can get us going with this listener question of the week.
Okay, so this question's from the listener Lucy. And she said, I'm turning 50 this year. I've heard I have to get a colonoscopy. And she's only heard like really bad stories. So she's wondering what it's really like.
Okay, Lucy, you have asked this at the perfect time. So I've made no secret of the fact that I turned 50 this year. I'm now part of the 50 Club. And with that came my first screening for colon cancer. And I did opt for a colonoscopy. So I can definitely tell you from recent memory what that's all about. So a colonoscopy is a screening test for colon or rectal cancer. And it can be done for anyone age 50 and up or earlier if you have a family history of either colon cancer or polyps. Then you want to start 10 years earlier than the age at which your relative was diagnosed. So definitely you want to make your doctor aware of that. So I opted for a colonoscopy rather than the home stool testing kit, just because I thought, for my first test, my baseline test, I'd like to just really know if I'm somebody who is higher risk or not.
Why are there home stool tests?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's nice.
So if you are of average risk, meaning you don't have a family history and you're not having any symptoms, and let's quickly talk about symptoms. Symptoms of concern include, but are not limited to, a change in the pattern of your bowel habits. So something's changed about your usual pattern. If there's any blood in your stool or blood from your backside when you have a bowel movement, if you have pain in your bottom or your abdomen when you're having a bowel movement, if you've lost weight unexpectedly, or if you have unexplained anemia, meaning your iron counts, your red blood counts are going down and no one can really find a good reason for it. These are all really good reasons to have a diagnostic colonoscopy. But if you don't have symptoms and you don't have a family history, you can either go for a colonoscopy, which uses a little camera at the end of a very thin tube and looks all the way up your colon to directly look for any signs of cancer or precancer, so polyps or a tumor, and it removes it right away. The alternative is the home stool kit, where your doctor arranges for you to get this little kit sent to your home, and you send one tiny little sample of your stool off in the mail, and they look for hidden blood in your stool. If it's negative,
Do you just put it in the post box?
You do. In an envelope. It's in a container. It's in an envelope. I know.
All right.
No one would know. It's very discreet. But they look for hidden signs of blood in the stool. So if you have hidden signs of blood in the stool, if that test is positive, you then have to go for a colonoscopy. But if it's negative, you can repeat that test every 2 years. And the idea is if you have a negative one 5 times in 10 years, it approximates the accuracy of a colonoscopy. And if a colonoscopy is normal, you go back in 10 years. So in my case, I assumed I'd do this and just wake up and be told, well, you wasted everybody's time, see you in 10 years, right? And then at that point, I could decide what I wanted to do next, keep going with colonoscopy or switch to the stool test kit. But anyway, so I opted for colonoscopy. I don't know why, but I just thought it was a good idea. The day before the colonoscopy, because this is what everyone talks about, is the prep, right? Have you ever heard of that?
I was in the same house as you. We all heard, everyone heard it.
Okay. Hey. So the day before you go, the process starts about 24 hours before your test. And I'm going to tell you all about it because this is what people don't talk about. You have to clean out your colon so that they can see properly. This makes sense, right? So how do you do this? Well, you have a light breakfast the day before, and then you fast pretty much for the rest of the day, the 24 hours. You can have clear fluids or clear broth, but nothing solid or with color in it. And you start taking some stool softening pills in the afternoon, and then you drink about 2 to 4 liters of fluid, depending on the prep that you're given. I was really lucky. I did something called a split dose prep, which meant I had to drink some electrolyte fluid, 1 liter of it the evening before, and 1 liter of it very early in the morning on the day of my colonoscopy.
So did you just hold up in bed for 24 hours? What did you just not, did you just stop your life?
Yeah, well, okay, that's a great question, actually. I actually remember in my particular case, I had to go pick your sister up at university that morning. So I actually had breakfast. And then while I had food in my system and I actually felt really, really normal and energetic, I went and got her at university, brought her home. And the truth is, yeah, I didn't stray far from home. You do have to be near a toilet and you want to be in a place that you're very comfortable because you will go to the washroom a lot. But you're allowed to have, like I said, you can have clear broth, you can have Jello that's not certain colors, you can have a lot of water, whatever you want.
Were there any favorites of yours from the colonoscopy prep diet?
Oh, no, it was awful. I had some broth and then I was like, I don't like broth. What am I doing? But Jello can be a good friend to people before their colonoscopy. All I know is after, it was the best meal I ever had. I was really happy to eat after. But I felt very prepared for my colonoscopy by the time I went very early the next morning. Then all that happens is you check in. They put a little IV in to give you sedation. And then you go to sleep. And I had a blissful sleep. Don't remember a thing. I didn't feel a thing. And I woke up. And that's when everything changed for me. Because the first thing my doctor said to me was, I'm so glad you did this. So I had 5 polyps, 2 of which were already 8 millimeters, which is considered quite large. Thank goodness none of them were cancerous. They were all benign, but I am now considered higher than average risk for cancer polyps, and I have been asked to come back in 3 years. And from there, they'll take it based on what happens at the next scope. So I am eternally grateful that I made that decision to have the colonoscopy. It is not for everyone. And again, mine was a screening colonoscopy. And if you are having symptoms, you have to talk to your doctor about a diagnostic colonoscopy because that is a more urgent situation. I waited 6 or 7 months to get my scope. The first thing I did was call my brother and sister, who are younger than me, and said, I've just destroyed the family history because now you have to go 10 years earlier than me, which they were already a little late for. But I said, you have to call your doctor right away. I am now someone who had polyps at 49. I wasn't yet 50. So they have to go as early as possible. So they've both actually had a colonoscopy arranged, and you and your sister are going to have to start going
I know. I was going to say, I
in all
recall
likelihood.
I too got that text.
Yes.
Congrats. Go for a colonoscopy in 2 years.
In my case, I was lucky because they found the polyps, they took them out, they were benign. But early detection really, really determines your rate of cure for colon cancer. I'm here to tell you there's nothing to be scared about. It seems like a scary test. It's really not. It is so, so worth the 24 hours that it takes. There's a great saying, like, if you don't make time for wellness, you'll be making a lot of time for sickness. And this is one of those cases. Yes, I took 24 hours and I fasted and I rested and I got nothing accomplished. So worth it at the end of the day. So, Lucy, I hope that I've reassured you. It's painless. Fasting's never fun, but you get through it, and it can really be a life-saving procedure, and it's really not as terrible as they make it out to be. I would do it again tomorrow if I had to. I did accidentally text my sister while I was still heavily drugged that I had 8-centimeter polyps, and she is still getting over the visual of that. No, they were 8 millimeters, but that is considered, close to a centimeter is considered higher risk than a smaller one. So anyway, Lucy, thank you for the question. It was probably more detailed than you were counting on, but I think it's really important that people destigmatize what these tests are like. Because if all you hear is everyone saying, oh, it was awful, oh, the prep was awful, oh, don't do it, you might be really scared, and it might hold you back from doing something that can be life-saving. In my case, it very well may have been life-saving. Thanks for the question, and we will see you next week on Medsplaining. Have a great week. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Medsplaining. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. And if you'd like this episode, the best thing you can do is tell a friend or rate and review it wherever you listen to your podcast so other women can discover it. And don't forget, if you're listening to this, you may be happy to know that we video every single episode, so you can watch it if you prefer on YouTube. See you next week. Medsplaining is produced by Ghost Bureau. Thank you for tuning in to Medsplaining. While we strive to provide accurate and insightful information, this podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The opinions expressed by our host and guests are their own and should not be interpreted as medical advice. Every individual's health situation is unique, and it is crucial to consult with a qualified healthcare provider regarding your specific concerns and conditions. Additionally, any links, resources, or references mentioned in our episodes are provided for informational purposes only and are not sponsored by Medsplaining. The producers and hosts of Medsplaining assume no responsibility or liability for any actions taken as a result of listening to our podcast. We encourage you to use the information presented here as a starting point for discussions with your healthcare provider. Information and references are subject to change based on scientific evidence as it evolves over time. The hosts and producers of Medsplaining are not responsible for future changes to the information and references and assume no obligation to update based on future developments. Remember, your health and well-being are paramount. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to exploring more topics in women's health with you in future episodes.